Open Doors Youth Service is a Southeast Queensland support service for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and or intersex youth aged 12 to 24 and their families. Open Doors believes that all young people have the right to explore, experience and express their gender and sexuality in safe and supportive environments, and offers a range of programs and counselling services, as well as support services for parents of LGBTI youth and community education and training. For more information, visit their website at www.opendoors.net.au. Sponsors of 4ZZZ.
4ZZZ. Eco Radio.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned in to 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show, maybe, possibly.
Maybe, definitely.
Definitely.
Probably.
Here we go. We're taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, middle of the month airwaves. My name's Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
I'm Zack. My pronouns are he, they.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians and the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city Mungangin on Turrbal Yagara Yugambal land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Yinambara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandong people, and down south, we reach the Commonwealth, Nagaragwal, Mununjali, Wanjerabara, and Yugambeh countries. There is no crown land, no matter how many kings come over here. That was extinguished with Mabo's Terra Nullius argument.
Interestingly, Dave, I learnt recently that terra nullius actually wasn't like the phrase used by white settlers until the 1830s. Not long, like 50 years after they actually arrived here. So it was just more of a, I don't know, like an out there justification for their colonisation of Australia. They couldn't come up with any sound philosophical or moral reasons to.
Well, originally when Cook was on his expeditions, he was given instructions to make relationships with people living in these countries. If you come across people, set up trade and do all these things. But when he went to New Zealand, he said, anyone who sees the first point of land gets to name it. And that doesn't sound like someone who's been given instructions to make trade with other people. Yeah, it sounds like someone who wants to take over. Yeah. Anyway,
fun times.
Just a bit of history to start off your Eco Radio.
Also, I'll follow on from that. One of the reasons why I suppose like the status of Indigenous people in New Zealand is like very different to that of Australia is that they had the treaty, the
Treaty of Waitangi.
Yeah, and that's made all the difference. So there's
a lot of differences.
We should
differences there.
We should get that. We should get that treaty going here, I reckon.
There should be a treaty. Lydia Thorpe yelled that at the King the other day.
Good for him.
Well, today on the show, we're going to be talking to Wendy Downes from the Slow Food Brisbane. We're going to be talking about the importance of slow food over fast food and what that means. And then later in the show, we're going to be talking to the Quoll Seekers Network project manager, Matt Cecil, about how we can get involved with helping Quolls, which I'm really excited about. I saw a Quoll on the weekend.
Really?
Yeah, I went to, there's a sort of enclosure area in Ipswich at Queen's Park.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, and they've got Quolls, they've got bilbies. And that's a free place where you can go and help and look and enjoy
some native animals.
Close by.
I grew up in Ipswich, sort of, so like I'm familiar with it. It's a nice place. Go and check it out. They got platypus there as well, I believe.
I didn't see any.
Okay. They did at one point, at least.
Okay.
Icarad.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.
Say no to plastic bags and yes to reusable cloth bags. Boomerang Bags creates eco-friendly shopping bags from pre-loved fabrics. You don't need to know how to sew to join in. Boomerang Bags has various working bees at their Sustainability Centre in Carindale. Everyone's welcome, so come for a cuppa with our morning tea and meet new friends. Visit balimbacreek.org.au for our next session. Boomerang Bags, so sustainable. 4ZZZ cares about our listeners and our environment.
4ZZZ sure does, and this is the most caring eco radio.
It is.
I don't know about most caring. There's a lot of shows that care about the environment here on 4ZZZ.
We're going to make the same claims about our caringness and also our length of time that we maybe definitely have appeared on the radio
Yeah,
for.
just make everything the most it can be.
Yeah.
And eventually it will be. And on the line, we have Wendy Downes, the convivium leader from Slow Food Brisbane. Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Hi there. How are you?
Good, thanks. So could you tell me about Slow Food Brisbane? What is the Slow Food movement?
Okay, well, Slow Food Brisbane is a local group of an international organisation called Slow Food. As a movement, it is a movement, I guess. Slow Food's kind of interesting because it's a movement that started as a protest to a McDonald's being built next to the Spanish Stairs in Rome. People believing that not only was an affront to the architecture and the history of Rome, but also to the way the Italians live and eat. So from that sort of protest, I guess that activism beginnings, the group has grown from the 1980s to what it is now. And what it is now is basically an organisation that has the common goal of ensuring that everyone has access to good, clean and fair food. And we do that through a various number of ways. In Brisbane or Mijan, our main way is what we're trying to do is connect our eaters with producers and give them opportunities to be able to buy local and also to have opportunities that aren't the major supermarkets. And the other focus we have is basically acknowledging and learning and sharing food traditions. Being in a country that has one of the oldest continuous food traditions in the world is really exciting for us, and it's something we'd like to learn and share a bit more about.
Yeah, well, you say it's it started in direct opposition to fast food.
Yes.
What is the problem with fast food and industrial farming, I guess? Don't more people get fed that way?
They do, but it's at a cost, and the true costs aren't there. So, I mean, with the values of slow food, which is good, it's about, it's good, clean and fair. And I guess in terms of industrial food, it's clean. It's basically trying to support systems that are regenerated the earth, that don't destroy the earth, that don't destroy our health, that respect the environment and the people that are going to eat them. And a lot of our industrial food systems don't do that. It's more about a system and a process and feeding rather than thinking about the impact it has not only on, like I said, our environment, but also on communities and health.
Yeah, right. So it's a more ethical way to feed yourself.
Yeah. So the main values of slow food are good, clean and fair. And what we mean about good means healthy and delicious and culturally appropriate and, something there for everyone. By clean, it's basically supporting local and resilient food systems which work to regenerate the earth and use resources in a respectful way. And fair, it's about creating economies based on solidarity, cooperation, and that empower food workers and consumers. So it's sort of that three-tiered system.
Yeah, right. Well, there's nearly 300 kilos worth of food wasted per person every year. So that organic material makes up about half of what Queenslanders throw away in their wheelie bin each week. Why do you think we have such a problem with food waste?
I think we tend to buy too much. I mean, Australians we're a very lucky country. We have food, our food is very cheap and it's very plentiful. We do tend to buy too much and we don't always use it. We're also a little bit unimaginative in the way we cook and use food. Like we might not, like for example, you might buy this beautiful bunch of radishes, cut the tops off and throw them away, where you could, make a pesto with those radish tops, or there's even, like peelings, and there's uses that you can have. There are a lot of people who will use those in their home composting systems. There are also quite a few farmers around Brisbane that also work, collect compost from restaurants and consumers and create compost for their own veggie garden. So there's lots of different alternatives there at the moment, but it is fairly off-grid and it does create a little bit more effort than just chucking it in the bin.
Yeah, right. So is that what Slow Food does in some of their events, is teach people how to use food differently?
Yeah, so we have, our events range from, our activities range from, we are obviously involved in the international organisation, and with that we have what's called the THECA Taste, and that's basically a record of unique foods that are culturally specific to an area. So in Brisbane we have included on the THECA Taste Bunya nuts, rosella jam, some of those things that are very unique to our region. The other thing we do is we have a biannually market where we have a whole range of producers, often growers and also compost producers come and join us with that. That market we do have, occasionally we will have a speaker, and so that's a public free event. We also do support a school garden, which works on not just growing food, but teaching kids about food systems and food waste and managing food waste. So that's at Cannon Hill State School. And then we also have a number of events, and we choose different topics at different times, depending on speakers, what's topical at the moment. So we have worked with, say, loop growers to do a food waste and food cycle system. Mm-hmm. We've also had chefs come in and do a pantry challenge with a whole stack of food waste as a demonstration. That's been a fun one, sort of doing a master chef but with food waste.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so we have, like I said, it's a bit of a roving field. We are volunteers. No one on the in the committee or in the organisation is paid, so it is very much run off individuals' passion and capacity. So, depending on the skills that we have in our group is also what fuels what we do for activities. Our upcoming activity is fairly exciting for us. We're doing the Gooby Trail, so we're working with a Quandong man. He's taking us on a food trail on Minjerribah for an hour and a half and just pointing out food and medicine plants for us. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, like we have this amazing resource right on our doorstep and we don't know anything about it. So Matt is taking us on a little stroll in his, as he calls it, in his pantry on the 24th of November. So, and that will be on our website too. So if people keep an eye on our website, you'll see what sort of activities are coming up. Yeah,
okay. Well, how can people get involved? Do you have volunteer positions available?
We always have volunteer positions available. Every volunteer group has volunteer positions. So getting involved, come to one of our markets, come to one of our events. You can like us on Facebook or Instagram. But most importantly, get involved in your everyday life. Try and understand where your food comes. Try and buy food from farmers, cheesemakers, local people who have a commitment to their environment and their community, and that's how you're going. Like, it might be a little bit more, but that's because they're paying. Well, if you're a small business person, you're not paying yourself well, but you're paying the rest of the team really well, and you're looking after the environment. And you care about the quality of product because you know the people who are going to eat it. Yeah,
well, I was wondering if you could tell us a few tips on how we can stretch our food a little bit further. You mentioned the pesto the beet tops.
Well, beetroot tops and radish tops are edible. Of course, I mean, celery tops make a really great, use them as you would onions. Never throw your celery tops away. That's the best part of the celery.
Oh, okay.
Same with your parsley stems. Parsley stems in any sauce is amazing. Just chop them up finely. I think, the other thing is that Northey Street Community Garden do have community composting, so if you live locally or you're driving past there regularly, you could bring your compost and pop them in their community compost bins. But I think just buying with a little bit more conscience and thinking, am I going to eat this week? Yes, no. So it all comes from that decision when you're actually looking at that beautiful bunch of parsley and saying, am I going to get through this all week? If I'm not, but I really want it, maybe I'll give half to my bestie and only keep half. Or, we just need to think about what we're going to use and consume.
Yeah, just be a bit more mindful, I guess, in everyday life.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks very much for joining us, Wendy.
Thank you, and thank you for your time, and hope to see you at a slow food event soon.
Yeah, that walk around Manjarabarra sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and that's just amazing. He's a really true educator and so generous with his knowledge.
That's great. Okay, thanks very much, Wendy.
Thank you. Talk soon.
That
Bye.
was Wendy Downes, the convivium leader from Slow Food Brisbane.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realise I was a seed.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. The future.
You are listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. I'm Dave.
I am Zack.
Someone texted in, Max texted in and said the Girl and Girl track is a banger. Taylor texted in and said that they love Wednesday lunchtime. And Wavy Beach texted in and said, my auntie would say if it's going back to the earth, it can't be waste. It's compost. And that's a nice sentiment. I always like thinking about my atoms returning to the earth and being part of a community system. And speaking about community systems, we're on 4ZZZ Radio, which is the best radio station in Australia.
Yeah.
Possibly the world. I haven't done the research.
I think it's all pretty clear, though.
Yeah, it is. It's obvious.
It's unofficially official,
It's a truth.
Yeah.
And if you want to become a part of the greatest community radio station in the world, you can join our family by subscribing. Subscriptions can be as little as $25 for under 18s or pets. Or if you're passionate about subscribing to 4ZZZ and you'd like a George Levi designed T-shirt and tote bag, $140 would get you that subscription. And you can go to at 4zzz.org.au/support.
Yeah, and for the pets as well, that can be for any sort of pet. I believe we are catering to any pet at this point.
Yep. Last week we were catering towards grubs.
We were, yeah.
That's expired now.
Okay.
Yep. The idea that we were going to make a T-shirt and tote for a grub.
Yeah.
That's expired now, so we have to make a new one for a different cryptid.
Cryptid? I think grubs are real animals.
They are, but I'd like to move to cryptids this week.
That's true, actually. Do you have a specific cryptid in mind?
I'm always favourable to bunyips.
Bunyips, yeah.
Or mothman.
Mothman's pretty cool. I was terrified of the bunyip not the bunyip, I was thinking of the yowie, my bad. I was terrified of the yowie when I was 8 because when I was 8 I read a book on cryptids from my school library that talked about the yeti. And I know the yeti and the yowie is not the same thing. They're in very geographically different areas.
Very.
but a big hairy man, you know. And I read in this book that a yeti killed a yak with a single blow. And 8-year-old me didn't know it meant punch, so I thought it just on.
Oh, blew it over.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's horrifying, dude. I was also like in a fairly mountainous place, so
the bad wolf style blew his house down.
Yeah, but with a whole yak. It's sturdier than a house sometimes. But like, I was in a mountainous place that have quolls on it potentially, which segues well into what we'll be talking about later.
Yeah,
so.
We're going to be talking to Matt Cecil from the Quoll Seekers Network. That's going to be coming up. So yeah, if you'd like to become a part of the 4ZZZ community, go to 4zzz.org.au/support. And this month, a new subscriber or returned subscriber will go in the running to win a customised adventure walk package from Trail Dogs. Speaking of pet subscriptions.
Get your dog on its own personal fitness plan.
Yeah, make sure no cryptids can catch it.
Yeah. And if you have any questions about quolls that you would like to ask our quoll expert that will be coming on, Matthew, you can text 0420 626 733.
Fantastic. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. I am Dave.
And I am Zack.
And on the line now we have the Quoll Seekers Network Project Manager, Matt Cecil. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
So we were going to talk about the upcoming Quoll Discovery Day event, but I checked the website this morning and it's all booked out. So that's great. But I'm sure there'll be more in the future. So what is the Quoll Discovery Day?
Yeah, the Quoll Discovery Day that we have in Maleny is tacked on to a larger project we've been running to try and find any evidence of spotted tail or northern quoll populations in the national parks to the west of the Sunshine Coast. So as part of that particular project, we want to include the community. And with the Quoll Discovery Day, it gives us an opportunity to run a workshop for the community, to talk about quolls, show pictures, show what to look for, and a few other things, how best to look after, keep them safe and if you come across them, and just some general information, because we really need the community to let us know if they see these animals, because we don't have eyes everywhere, and people who live in that region behind the Sunshine Coast National Parks are a good resource.
Yeah, quolls are very rare, elusive animals in southeast Queensland now. But there was one that showed up near the powerhouse in Brisbane a few months ago. How do people normally get to see quolls here?
To be honest, in southeast Queensland, we struggle to see them at all. Normal, natural populations don't seem to, or more or less restricted to the southern Granite Belt and Southern Downs region, so west of the main range. So if you wanted to actually go and see one in a normal situation, you would have to go camping out around Bald Rock and those types of areas in the Southern Downs. They're nocturnal, so that you have to be out at night time, and you probably would have to either keep your eyes peeled or maybe hang around a national park campsite in those areas and see if you can't lure them with a sausage. But that one that turned up in Brisbane here was unusual. I don't think it was part of a population. I'd say it might have been a stowaway, possibly. Not sure. Strange situation, that, but a handsome little fella.
Yeah, it was big news here on Eco Radio. Yeah, we really enjoyed that. So when they're not hanging about in the mangroves near the powerhouse, what do the Quoll Seekers Network do to seek quolls?
We run a whole lot of camera monitoring projects. So we sort of, when we get funding, we get ourselves out into areas where we'd like to think quolls still inhabit. We put out a whole bunch of camera traps, bait them with some usually chicken necks or chicken frames to encourage carnivorous scavengers to come in and try and find some physical evidence, because once we have an understanding of where they are in a physical location, then we can look at the management practices for that vegetation and chat with the powers that be to try and have some extra protection put in place, or influence maybe some pest animal control put be put in place, or some revegetation activities, or weed control, just something to improve habitat. So really for us it's about finding where they are and then seeing what we can do with that information.
You mentioned that quolls are quite elusive creatures. How is like the conservation status of quolls in southeast Queensland?
Oh, they're endangered. Yep, endangered under federal legislation and endangered under state legislation. So, beyond, I guess, the main range where we don't seem to see any more quolls north, spotted tail quoll, not north until you get into North Queensland. There is a small population in North Queensland, but that one is also seemingly disappearing at an alarming rate. So they're really under the pump. It's a sad situation, and I think what we've got here in southeast Queensland is just the very northern tip of what is a subtly contracting population heading sort of south into New South Wales. So, that's just southeast Queensland's a popular place to live, and sometimes, people and what comes with that doesn't necessarily interact well with endangered carnivores.
Right. So, obviously, like the biggest threat to quolls would be declining habitat. But one of the issues with some of the introduced animals such as like cats and dogs is that they occupy similar like ecological niches to that of quolls, where they're both like small, like relatively medium-sized carnivores. Kind of like, how has the introduction of those species affected quolls?
Yeah, it's I think quite significantly. You're spot on. Not only is it a predatory competitive pressure that they'll put on, being similar, niche specialists and small mammal predators, but they'll probably also add a predatory impact as well. Cats and dogs and foxes could well easily prey upon young quolls left in a den while a mother goes out to feed. So you've sort of got a double whammy there. So I think it's quite a large pressure, all told, and then add sort of the introduction of the cane toad, which was an easy meal for a quoll early on, has probably just continued to stack that pressure onto the camel's back. And it's the last straw. Add habitat fragmentation, giant impact with roads. Quolls, they're always active, really moving quite large home ranges. So sadly, when they're travelling through their home ranges that are of a large size, they're going to come across roads and crossroads, and we get a lot of vehicle strikes as well. So, they've got it all going on. To the point now, I think, where in Queensland, the loss of one quoll is significant for a population. I wonder whether or not that the overall population has that elasticity to be able to absorb individual loss these days. It's a pretty scary situation.
Yeah, that's definitely really scary. What makes the quoll special to you? Why did you? Are you devoting your time to the quoll?
Oh, look! If you've seen one, I reckon you'd fall in love straight away.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have too many brown to orange small mammals with such I'll say handsome or pretty little facial features, and then covered in spots. They're quite a striking animal to look at, and you can't help but have some compassion for them. And then, they're just a little battler, aren't they? They're fierce. They move around. They're unrelenting on as a predator. There's been the images of quolls taking on possums and things. They're tough little buggers, and they battle. They move around. I just think they're just crazy, just cool little animals, and one that I guess that our community doesn't really know about.
Yeah.
I reckon if we sampled 50 people in the street, we'd probably have 2 that knew what we were talking about. Yet, they're a cousin to the Tasmanian devil, and they're here in Queensland, and they're endangered, and they just need a voice.
Yeah. The carnivorous marsupial population seem to have taken a back seat to, I suppose, things like koalas and wombats.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, for sure. And I guess I can't explain why. Most people in other countries love carnivores. Wolves and bears and lions and tigers and all the other carnivorous species seem to have preeminent focus in people's mind. But for here in Australia, I guess because we don't have those big carnivores apart from the devil and maybe the thylacine, we seem to forget about them. But they're there. They're strikingly beautiful creatures, and And I think they're crazy.
I think my next question kind of like comes from maybe the idea of people who like started settling out in the bush a bit more. So I'm from like the western side of Mount Glorious, and I remember growing up, my dad suspected we had a chicken eaten by a quoll, which probably wasn't true. But I think there's just like this idea that quolls can be like dangerous to pets or livestock. Is this like a genuine concern, or is it quite sensationalist and it's just like all a bunch of, I don't know, misunderstanding sort of thing?
I reckon the quoll with a belly full of chicken would claim it was a misunderstanding if the farmer was about to persecute him. No, look, I think historically quolls certainly have taken care of chickens. You know, if chickens are out during dawn and dusk or even in the daytime, and they're pretty easy prey for a predator. So I certainly would expect that there was quite a few chickens in prehistory farmers' chickens taken by quolls. And that's a real shame because, you know, a chicken's not worth a whole lot. But however, if it was my chicken, I probably would be cross that a quoll ate it. But the persecution, I think, existed, you know, for a long period of time. I'd like to think these days it's a little bit less of an issue with some more updated information about the species. But I believe it was there. But you're right, you know, cats and foxes are certainly good at taking chickens, and not often do people believe they've got a fox in the backyard, but they'll throw straight to maybe it was the damn quoll that hasn't been seen in the area for the last 50 years.
Yeah, right.
Bit demonised.
It seemed to be the easy target, but it's an unfortunate situation that quolls love chickens. It really is.
Well, yeah. How can people get involved with the Quoll Seekers Network and help out?
Yeah, for sure. We'd like to take volunteers, so you can simply email us at quoll@wildlife, so QUOLL @wildlife.org.au, and then we'll register with an interest to volunteer, and we can get people in touch with the project that way. There's also through the Wildlife Preservation Society of Queensland website, because we're part of Wildlife Queensland. There's options to register for volunteering opportunities there. You could volunteer on greater glider projects or platypus projects or Richmond birdwing butterfly projects, a whole range of things. But that's the best way, just to submit your information, and then when we've got events coming up, you can learn about them, like the Quoll Discovery event, or opportunities to volunteer. If anybody is really keen on coming along to the Mullaney event that hasn't got a ticket, certainly drop us an email or give us a phone call at Wildlife Queensland or via quoll@wildlife.org.au, and we'll make something happen.
Oh, that's fantastic.
People miss out.
That's awesome. Thanks very much, Matt, for talking to us.
No problems. Anytime, guys.
All right, fantastic. That was Matt Cecil from Quoll Seekers Network.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realise I was a seed.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. The future.
You are listening to Eco Radio. Thank you very much for that one, small child. This is Eco Radio, 102.1 FM, 4ZZZ, with myself, Zack.
And myself, Dave.
That was a good pause. I'm glad we're in sync with our back announcing today.
Yeah. Well, to continue on that back announcing, we just heard then from Feral Fatigue with their song Barbed Wire. That's 2 words, Barb Dwyer.
Oh,
yep.
Right. It's not 2 words, it's in barbed wire.
Nah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that one, actually.
When you
one would have tricked me.
Want to search for it, that's what you're going to search for. And if you do like to search for things to do on the weekend, well, we've got you covered here. We've got all your Bushcare Roundup needs coming up.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds, and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
Now, if you're not familiar, the Bushcare Roundup is a collection of some environmental events or peace and justice events happening on the week that you can go along to. Most of them are free, and most of them help the environment.
Well, they're just interesting, you know. For one we'll come up to later, it'll just be a fun time to go and learn about some of our native fauna of southeast Queensland.
Yeah, so let's have a look. What have we got on happening Sunday the 27th?
So on Sunday the 27th, to begin with at 8 a.m. and finishing at 10 a.m. we have the Gilbert Road Bushcare Group Working Bee on 100 Jean Street, Grange. Oh God, I was pronouncing it in a French manner. That's embarrassing. From 8 till 10 we also have the THECA Cicada Park Bushcare Working Bee at 69 Ironbark Road, Chapel Hill, and then from 2 till 5 we have the DCP Greenslopes Bushcare Working Bee. That one is on Nicholson Street, Greenslopes.
Yeah, I've done some bushcare there. That's a really nice site, and they're doing great work. At 2:30, you can go to the Friends of Bank Street Bushland Reserve Working Bee. That's at 59 Quandong Street in Ashgrove. At 3 o'clock, you can go to the Growing Forward Kangaroo Point Commons Working Bee. That's at 160 Wellington Road in East Brisbane. And also at 3 o'clock is the Growing Forward Save Kurilpa Commons concert. That's at 250 Boundary Street in West End. One of the acts that's going to be playing there is Phil Mansour, fantastic Brisbane activist protest singer. Amazing repertoire that guy has. And at after you finish with the concert at 4:45, you can go to the Batty Boat Halloween Cruise. That's put on by Wildlife Queensland, and that's leaving from the Cultural Centre pontoon in South Brisbane. You will need tickets to go on the boat, but go see all the riverside bat colonies that a wonderful city still has, despite massive development and a lot of people really not liking bats.
Yeah, despite the council's best efforts to get rid of them, they remain.
Yeah, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Uncancelable, some people say.
Much like Eco Radio. But on Tuesday the 29th from 8 till 1 p.m, we have the Ocean Crusaders Brisbane River Cleanup with Do Up Shop and Quoll Garner Drive Morningside.
Yep, and that's all for your Eco Radio. You're listening to 4ZZZ Eco Radio.
4ZZZ. Eco Red.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.